Hi there, welcome to the Contemplate Show. In this show, we try to answer life trickiest questions in the best way possible. We encourage, educate, inspire individuals to achieve their goals. Alright, we'll be looking at a very interesting topic today. Is this the number one secret to getting your business funding? We have a guest today who would demystify this topic. And at the end of the day, we should be able to find ways to fund that dream and that business you have lying on your lap. I'd like to introduce my guest today. Meet Sohan Gokarn, a co-founder of Epic Wealth Academy, a company that helps successful 10x entrepreneurs and business coaches create video content to increase their leads' income and establish them as an industry expert. Thank you for honoring our invitation on this episode 5.
Welcome. Thank you. I want to say welcome to all the listeners on the call. Thank you, Enoch, for having me on the show. I think this is one of the most absolutely exciting episode that I would actually have, especially in the first quarter of the year. So anyone listening to this, whether it's in the first quarter of 2025 or you're listening to this 10 years down the track, I can promise you right now, you're about to have the best conversation of your entire life. There's a saying, Enoch, we're always one conversation away from our dream come true. And I'm telling you now, this could be that conversation for someone listening that is really yearning for that one little thing that they needed to hear that's actually going to help them to catapult their entire journey, whether it's personally, professionally, or financially. So thank you, Enoch, for making this possible. Thank you for having me on your show. I am super pumped to get going, mate. Let's get it.
Thank you so much, Sohan. In this episode, we want you to demystify the myth of generating funds. So we want to know, what is the secret?
Well, I'll let the cat out of the bag straight up. Okay. I think, when you and I had this conversation just before we got into setting up and scheduling this episode, I think one of the biggest things that we spoke about was, why are people in this world right now not being able to get their businesses off the ground, especially trying to get their funding around, making their dreams come true. And I'll tell you now, the biggest secret, like I've been saying this to all my people that I've been training, my clients that we've been coaching, my colleagues that I've been working with, my peers that I've been rubbing shoulders with and going with, the one secret that has constantly allowed funding to come through like a floodgate is the ability for someone to have self-belief. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but self-love. And I'm going to talk more about this and I'll tease it out for you. But that's the number one secret to getting funding. And I'll tease it out as we speak. But if we don't have this self-belief and self-love, there is this massive issue around funding the business. And we'll get into that in a moment. Whether it's funding financially, or whether it's funding the business emotionally, or whether it's funding the business spiritually, that needs to happen. But the only way that's going to happen is if we really look into that number one real big attribute, which is self-belief and self-love.
Now, speaking of belief, what role does belief play in terms of generating funds? So someone has a dream, he has things to do. How does belief translate into?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting you ask that question, because a lot of people don't understand. They look at most of their life, they look at their businesses from an external factor, and they're constantly thinking about how people perceive the value of what we have to offer as a business in the world. But what we don't realize is that there is a perception value, which is out there in the world, and then there is a self value, which is in the inside of our world. And a lot of times, most entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs especially, when they're kicking off and they're starting out, they want to do it. Most of them generally want to start off for the purpose of wanting to make money so they can look after their family, maybe retire their mom or retire their dad or do something big like that. The challenge they have, though, is that they're constantly worried about how, when it comes to getting the business, set up and to go to be able to solve a problem in the marketplace, they're worried about how they're being perceived, how their business is being perceived, and whether their business is valuable. Now, most businesses started by entrepreneurs, not businessmen, are usually businesses that have to solve a massive problem or create a dent in the universe, as we say, because a journey of an entrepreneur is very different to someone who's just being a businessman. A businessman typically is looking to make sales and make money, a quick buck, versus someone who's an entrepreneur is looking to really solve a massive problem and make an impact and create a ripple effect in their world or in our world as a whole. So either way, when they're starting out, the one big issue that most people have is that we're constantly basing our value based on the perception of that value, which means we think of other people's opinions first, and that really hinders the true value that we can bring. Now, when we're not clear about our own value internally, that obviously means we don't believe enough, because our belief level is then based on the perception of other people. That means based on how much other people believe in what we have to offer is how far we take our belief system. And that is very detrimental to having to fund the business, because the reality in life is nobody is going to follow your business and want to fund your business or even provide anything close to partnering up with you if they can't see how much you believe in you, your product or your service, and the impact you want to make in your world, or the mission you have to carry out, that dream that you want to fulfill. If there isn't that level of belief, which is absolute certainty within, which means going back to that internal perception or internal value versus external value, which is coming from a perception of the world, they will not want to work with you just immediately. In fact, they will think twice and they'll hold back, and that really delays the process of actually getting funding. Does that make sense? So it's so important to really go into that deeper meaning of, okay, why did I get into this business? What value do I really have? Because the problem that most people have is self-belief. They don't believe enough in themselves as much as they want other people that they love or they're loved by to believe in them. In fact, most of us, and I was part of that, we want to be able to rely on someone. We want that, whether it's our wives or husbands or someone like our parents or someone around us, that we want them to believe in us so that we can have the courage to go forward into the world and make our dreams come true. And the reality is that is the biggest hindrance that we will always face, because the true belief system lies within, because the value that we have to offer the world needs to be seen by us and appreciated by us and believed by us first before anyone else around us can actually see it. Because that belief is nothing else but pure energy. Just like money is pure energy, belief is that feeling of belief is energy, and energy is transferred. Energy is felt. Energy is something that people can actually feel and sense before they can actually see or hear you. That is vital. So if I had to step into a room of a panel of people who've got money and I'm about to have a meeting with them, the only thing that they're going to experience is my belief as energy before they actually see me, before I even open my mouth to speak, because I carry a certain aura about me, whether it's in the room or whether it's outside the room. And so that belief system has a lot to do with the way we're approaching funding in our businesses.
It's quite interesting how you're starting on that note, and yeah, it's a bit of mind juggling. So what do you say to people who do not really have this belief? Maybe it's their spouse that believes in them, friends believing in them. And we all know that belief can come with a certain ratio. Some might be higher than some. And so what do they do? What level do you need to get to before you take that first step, which is belief?
Yeah, well, you know what? I love that question, man, because belief has to do a lot with certainty that comes from certain results and outcomes that happen. But those certain outcomes can happen, or results can happen, if someone takes action. And if someone takes action, that action has to be based on a plan. And then that plan certainly has to have some level of initial goal setting. But that goal setting comes from beginning that whole idea of being a dreamer. Now, here's the funny part, most people, they start dreaming. We all do. As kids, we all do, we all start dreaming. The problem we have is somewhere along the line, it gets crushed. And so we don't follow through with the dream. Okay, but let's assume that people have moved on from that. They're still holding on to their dreams, and let's talk about those people that are holding on to their dreams. They want to create something. Well, the very first step is for them to be able to set goals really clearly. Now, let me get very clear about this goal. Now, most people talk about goal setting, about write down what you want, write down what you want, write down what you want. I'm going to tell you now, it's not what you want that's actually a goal. That's the mistake that most of us make. I made that mistake too. I would write down every single morning, every single night, every single morning and every single night. I would write down what I want. I would literally write down what I wanted to have, whether it was an immediate goal, like a short-term goal, or a medium-term goal, like a year, 2 years, 3 years, or whether it was a long-term goal, say 5+ years or 7 years, right? The problem with that was every single time I wanted to carry on and make a plan, it became easy to make a plan, but it made it harder to continuously take action. And the reason it made it harder to take, why it made it harder to take action? Because I was focused on the wrong thing. See, what you want, Enoch, and what you're excited about are two different things. For example, you might want a Ferrari Spider, right? You might want a Ferrari, but what you're really excited about is probably you just going and picking up the keys from the dealership, sitting in that car, turning it on and hearing the sound for the first time, like hearing the roar when the startup happens. That gets you excited, right? Or maybe what gets you really excited is when you're actually driving that car all the way to your home and showing it off to your family for the very first time in the driveway. Or maybe that car, driving that car and actually having it gift wrapped and then have it opened by your wife or opened by your father or someone like that. Or you're doing some action like that gets you excited. That's what really hooks you, because it's the emotion attached to the goal that is really more important. It's that emotion that we crave for that allows us to experience that, okay, let's go ahead. And I'm enthusiastic now to go ahead and make a plan about it. And then from that plan, I can't wait. I'm so anticipating I want to take action yesterday. And then that action is so exciting because you're excited about the exciting part, right? You're excited about the feeling of, oh my God, bring that car or in front of whoever I want to, or drive that car literally out of the dealership and hear the sound of that for the very first time. Whatever that exciting feeling is, that feeling is what allows you to propel that action, which now starts creating results. Now with those results, and because you're still so excited about the excitement and not what you want, but just the excitement, all of a sudden, guess what? It creates momentum because you're doing more of it. So the more you do it, the bigger your actions are, the bigger your results are going to be. And so when you see the results, tangible results, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, whether it's financially, all of a sudden that creates momentum. And when you start seeing momentum now starts creating and feeding the beast called belief. That is very, very important to understand.
You've just I was thinking the first step will we believe, and then from belief we go to goal setting, but I think you've just switched it around in your last sentences. So you're saying, so we have to set the goals first and then connect an emotion to the goals. And then as we work our way up, it begins to build the belief. And my question is, how do people who do not have this belief and, they have family members or friends who are kind of rooting for them, how can they navigate these waters?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. Now, if you've got family that's rooting for them, that means they're cheering them on, they're actually supporting them. If they've got friends that are actually supporting them, great. That means they've got a circle of influence in the sense that there are people around them that are willing to be able to support them if something happens, like it's a safety net, right? The key for these people to be able to, if they don't have a lot of belief, they need to know it's okay. That's the first step. You got to be okay with it, because in life, we don't get based on what we deserve. We get whatever we get in life is based on how we're programmed. We get what in life based on what we're programmed to deserve, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth or that's the end, right? Knowing that is really important. So it's okay to not be strong with a belief system, because if you just because you can't see that goal, it doesn't mean that it can't happen for you. And that's where clarity comes into play. So the very first thing that the person needs to do, if they don't have enough belief, is they got to ask themselves, why do they not have that level of belief? And most of the times, the reason they don't have that belief is because they're focused on what they wanted, which they probably don't have evidence around them personally to believe that it's possible. So they're actually focusing on the wrong thing in the first place, which is what they want. But you know what? Here's the interesting part. If they actually look at what gets them excited as a result of getting what they want, all of a sudden now, they will realize that they're not the only person that has experienced that feeling. There are people around them in different environments, in different situations, who have also experienced that level of excitement. Because excitement is a feeling that is global. It's universal. You and I, don't have copyright on it, but you know what? We know that 8 billion people on the planet have experienced some level of excitement in some shape or form or the other. So excitement is generally available to be seen everywhere. Now, for that person specifically, there's a personal connection. There's a deeper connection with the thing that gets them excited versus the thing that they want. And so if they don't have a lot of belief...
So what you're saying is, in that goal setting, they should look for things that excite them.
That's
right. That is connected to what they want.
That's right. Because if I want, again, like I was giving another example the other day, I was sharing this with one of my guys on the team. He wanted to be a father. He's only 20 years old. He wants to be a dad. Okay. He's excited about it. He's like, man, every time he sees my son and he sees him online or he talks to him on the video, he goes, oh my God, he's so cute. I can't wait for the day I'm a dad and I'm a father. And I said, that's awesome. I said, why do you want to be a dad? And then he started telling me why, why he wanted to create that environment, why he wanted to build a dynasty of these memories and leave a legacy behind, which he never had and never would have from his parents, from the upbringing he had. But he wanted to create a certain environment for his kids, and he wanted to create a certain environment for his wife and wife-to-be, right? And so he had these thoughts. That got him super, super peaceful, fulfilled, and super duper excited, more than being a father. So it wasn't really about being a father. It was more about what he wanted to create from being a father. That was more exciting for him. So all of a sudden he had to shift his mindset, and what we see is based on what we say. So it's very important for us to be mindful of that. Now, he didn't have the belief system for that because he clearly didn't know how he was going to do that. He had a vague idea, right? He thought if he just has all the money in the world, he'll make that possible. And that's not always true. But he had to just know that you don't have to know the entire, and you don't have to see the entire stairwell or the staircase to be able to go for it. The problem with people setting goals on what they want is that they're trying to see the entire staircase. When the reality is, if they just focus on what they actually got excited about, that will allow them to see crystal clear the first step of the staircase, and they will be at peace with that, which gives them in turn the confidence to go ahead because now they can see it. They can see it because now, how can you see it? Well, because now you can create a plan of action because you're more willing and more creative because you're so excited about that exciting thing that you're willing to be creative around how you're going to get that. So that's how you can end up making a plan, and you have an open mind to being, if you don't have a plan, you're happy to borrow someone else's plan that will fit into alignment with having to get what gets you excited. But it's better to write a goal down and say, something that gets you excited about having a property, as opposed to saying, I'm going to have, 10 properties, rental properties in the next 5 years. That's a want. But what's the exciting part about having 10 properties in the next 5 years, rental properties in the next 5 years? Maybe it's passive income, right? Maybe it's, I'm going to have that money that I never need to get out of bed for. And I'll have that money coming in every single year or every single month. If that gets you excited, and if that's not getting you excited, well, then that's still a want. Well, what gets you excited about that? Well, maybe it is you can cut a check anytime you want for your family members whenever they want. Okay, if cutting a check at any time you want for any family member you want, if that's what gets you excited, write that down as your goal. Write that down. Don't write the property thing. Write down that thing that gets you excited, because now you'll be able to create a plan of action, and you'll be flexible on your approach of how to get to that goal while you're fixated on the goal. Because most people, they get fixated on their approach and flexible on the goal. So they keep changing the goalpost half the time. Hence why they keep going in circles, and 3 months later, 6 months later, they're in the same position they were before. And their belief system keeps getting hammered and keeps getting lower and lower and lower. And before you know it, they don't have a lot of self-belief. In fact, they don't even love themselves enough. So they just beat themselves up all the time saying it's not possible, versus the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, thank you for shedding light on that. So, if someone has a business idea, for instance, and they've been pondering on this idea for quite some time, can you just touch on that? How can they start from that zero to getting funds?
Good question. I mean, as of now, today, there are a lot of people who are willing to open their wallets into a business if there is a proof of concept. That means there is evidence that's backed up. So the first thing that you got to do is if you have an idea about something, well, take that idea and go ahead and find someone who has done that and has made progress in it. Because if you have come up with that idea, there's a high probability that someone's already done what you're thinking of doing. Hence why you have that idea. Okay. Now, if your idea is so left field and it's so unique that no one in this world has ever done it before, you're the first one to do it, I'd be a little careful. I'd be a little mindful rather, because in the world of business, it's always good to look at opportunities that have been successful, and you want to find a way to improvise it with your uniqueness. Or you want to collaborate and you want to expand it and grow it. Or there's enough in the market share for most of us to take, and so you're willing to come in and you're obviously going to show up better because you have some unique opportunity as a proposition for your market. However, when you're getting that idea, if you do not go and you do not get someone who has already done it, aka a mentor or a coach that has already done what you're wanting to do, then you are starting down the road where you're going to end up throwing stones, not pebbles, but you're throwing stones and rocks on a path that was clear in the first place for you. So if you want to kick off an idea so that you can get funding for your business, the proof of concept is going to come from, number one, find a mentor that's already done what you've done. Number two, create a set plan of action. I mean, we could sit here and talk for hours about it, but to give you a high level, and of course, you can go straight up on you can use ChatGPT or you can use any of the AI platforms now. You can obviously give them a decent prompt on the ChatGPT and you can ask for a plan of attack and you can verify that and you can see how you can apply it. But the simplest way for you really executing an idea is going out and testing it in the market for free. You don't have to charge anything. You go out and solve a problem. If you have that idea of solving someone's problem, go ahead and find out. The easiest way to do that is to reach out to someone in the industry and say, hey, you wouldn't happen to know someone who is having such and such problem with their business, would you? Now, chances are that person is going to come back to you and say yes or no. They're going to say, yeah, I probably do know someone. Give me some time, leave it with me, I'll let you know. Right? But you're just looking for one. You're not looking for millions. So, if you simply were specific and you asked someone and said, hey, you wouldn't happen to know just one person like yourself who is having a problem in this and this area, would you? Now, the chances are they'll come back to you with a referral. Now, that's great because now you can reach out to the person and you can now try out solving that problem with your idea. And when you do get that solution for them, guess what's going to happen? You're not asking for money in exchange with them. You're just saying, give me a testimonial, give me a result so I can take that and I can go out and do it. You can do this 2 or 3 times for the first 2 or 3 people. And now you've got 2 or 3 2 or 3 stories or case studies that you can now go to the 4th and 5th person and charge them a tiny amount. Still tiny, just so that you can start getting the taste of what it would be like to get some money earned on that. But you're still building a proof of your concept, which then allows you to eventually charge you'll have a fair idea with some experience, but you'll also have an idea whether the idea needed to be changed or improved or kept the same. And it allows you to then feel more confident about charging the marketplace now because you have more experience under your belt. Plus you got some results on your back, so you now have more credibility and you feel more authority in the marketplace. So that automatically makes you feel more certain about you, your business, your idea, your product, your solution. And therefore now you can move forward and start charging people till you reach a point where you can substantially start looking for funding in the business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like what you said in terms of the mentorship, because I know mentors really play a huge role in helping individuals or, new business owners just navigate. You don't have to make those mistakes. But I also like what you said about, you tested the market, because not everyone is exposed to mentorship. Say you want to go into an industry. Mentors are really busy. It's just maybe some that God sent that can take you on board and show you the ropes. So, but I like what you said about starting small, have an idea, test it. Don't look for the money. Just see how you go in terms of providing a solution. And then on the back of that, you now gain confidence and the belief you talked about earlier on. You have more belief and you have a plan of action and you keep building on the back of that.
Yeah, because that creates momentum, right? So a lot of times people don't realize that, the fastest way to really build self-belief is momentum, create momentum. And the way you can create momentum is a momentum of results, right? It's a snowball effect. Once you start getting those results for people, it just starts to keep coming, because now you're getting more and more confident. So you're actually happy to go rapidly and build your business faster with that idea that you have. So 100%, it makes a massive, massive difference.
So once you have a mentor, you've started the business, with the little you have, what will be the next step?
Well, once you have a mentor, execute. Like most of the times, we always challenge the mentor. People will tend to challenge the mentor because they think, oh, well, my situation is different. We have excuses. Again, it goes back to that programming, right? So it's really important to execute. I'll give you a classic example. We've got a lot of mentors in our business. We've had them for I've been in business for 25 years now. One thing's for sure, I always had mentors and coaches. And I'd say this, right? Maybe the first year I didn't, but right after the first year, I started utilizing the power of mentorship and coaching into my world. And I wish I had that one extra year, because that one extra year makes such a difference. I'll tell you why. The value of time is so powerful. Up until recently, I used to think time is money, until I realized with one of my mentors that time is infinitely more valuable than money. I didn't know that. I used to think time is money because that's a conditioning, that's a programming I had, till I realized no, time is infinitely more valuable than money. And we can expand on that and talk about it more. But it certainly is, because the common analogy, people go, if you lose money, you can bring that back. But if you lose time, you can never. Yeah, well, that's definitely one. But people still don't get it, right? They still don't get it. They still think that time is money. And that was a big shift for me. So when you have a coach or when you have a mentor that you've hired or you're utilizing to help you with your idea, when they suggest to jump, your job is to ask how high, not why, right? There is a place for curiosity, and there is a place and a time for getting to challenge the mentor. But when you're starting out, it is so mission critical to just literally ask them, how high do you want me to jump? Because when they suggest an idea for your idea to implement it or to improvise it, the second step is for you to actually make that plan and execute on that plan. Taking action is important. You've got to go out and actually get those customers for free if you need to, because it's a brand new idea. We were talking about it again, testing. The two main pillars of every single business is sales and marketing. Some people call it the twin success tickets, right? They're literally what they are. So when you're starting out with an idea, you got to know that you probably don't have any experience in marketing or sales. You probably don't have that experience. And if you don't have experience in either of those, you're going to have to go and get some, because without those, your business is never going to fly. Your idea is never going to fly. If you think you're going to get someone else to do it, guess what? It's not going to happen until you know how to do it, because you got to lead. And leaders are not by titles. Leaders are by examples, right? By their actions. So you've got to be able to learn how to market to people. Simply asking for a referral is a form of marketing, right? And then actually speaking with someone and serving them at the highest level and transferring that energy of excitement, enthusiasm, the attitude of, I love to want to change your life and make an impact on your company and your business. That is so transferred across to the person that they feel, which is when the sale occurs. Having that level of skill comes from having that level of attitude and work ethic to just step in, execute based on what the mentor says, for you to experience these scenarios so that you can now start making some mistakes, because only through your mistakes do you ever learn. There are successes and learnings. There is no such thing as failure. We got sold on the wrong thing, again, due to conditioning and program. It was a wrong program. There is no such thing as failure. There is only such thing as learning. So if you don't have the experience, how are you going to accept the opportunity of making mistakes? And we were told to not make mistakes, to be perfect. But the reality is your lessons come from the mistakes, right? So it's so important to be able to take that step of execution and implementation.
Yeah, that's quite deep. The way you've arranged this looks like there's a lot of components. I'm sure our viewers will be like, show me the money, show me the money. Now you've taken them through, it's like you've started that paradigm shift, taking them through a journey of understanding the belief, plan of action, looking out for mentors and coaches, and now doing the job, folding up your sleeves and going into the main business, learning marketing and skills and wearing a lot of hats. And why do you think a lot of people struggle with this aspect where they have an idea, they don't want to do it for free, they will rather pitch their idea to investors and keep sourcing for funds without even testing it? Just help us touch on that.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know what? It's such a great question. It comes back to a couple of things. It comes back to assumption. So number one, that's assumption. If you take the word assume and you break it up, it says you make an ass out of you and me, right? To break up, assume, ass, you and me. It literally is that. So we tend to assume that we can go to someone and they can look at our idea and think it's a great idea and they'll just pump the money and they can do the dirty work, not realizing that if your idea has not really provided any level of footsteps of blueprint, there is no way someone wants to come forward and do it. And that's just the reality of it. So the assumption is the number one mistake, but the second biggest mistake is ignorance, lack of knowledge. See, they're not perhaps in the right circles. They haven't done enough research to understand how business works. They think if they went to business school, maybe now they have an idea and they can actually use that as their opportunity to go out and find someone. And sometimes that doesn't go down the right path. Why? Because there's no experience and there's no knowledge around the circle of influence to get that idea executed. So there is this, and might I add, there is a third part, which is again that level of self-esteem, the shyness, the fear of looking foolish, the fear of stepping out of the comfort zone and coming out in public to share the idea, having to feel ridiculed or feeling the pressure of maybe someone doesn't like the idea, and so they have this perception, they have this fear of what people will perceive them to be, which is what happens to most people. Most of us. And so that's what happens to most aspiring entrepreneurs. The core reason, do you know why this all happens? It's because they're missing the biggest investment in themselves. That biggest investment of investing in themselves is the missing piece to the puzzle. Most people that have a great idea, and I'm saying this, most people, that's over 98% of the population, do not invest in themselves to improve themselves personally. They are not willing to go deep enough. They're not willing to find out why, it's so important for this idea to flourish, as an example. They're not finding out why that idea is important to fly. They're not going deep enough to find out the real important reason as to why that they want this idea to come out to be true for their dream and their goal. Most people don't, because they haven't done the inner work. And the journey of an entrepreneur is a journey, it's not a destination, right? It's the whole idea of being an entrepreneur is you can go and find answers to a massive problem. But if you had an idea, and if you thought someone else was going to take the idea and just throw money at it and pay you out for just the idea, you have this fallacy, because that clearly shows that there hasn't been enough work being done and introspection done on themselves. Hence why there's no confidence to go out and execute the idea and test it out themselves. Because they're worried about failing, the fear of failure, the fear of looking foolish. There could be so many other things attached to it, right? There's guilt there, there's shame there, there's hurt there, there's potential anger and sadness there as well from the past, and it could be in the current life, past events, or it could be previous generations, which I personally believe that's connected as well, because it's all energy. And so people haven't done the inner work to be able to go out and actually execute it and do it themselves. Hence why they think that it'll be easier for them to just literally go to someone they're looking for that person who sees their idea to be, this is a fantastic idea, what, I'll take it and I'm happy to put some money towards it. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work. I mean, what you see on reality TV, with the Shark Tank, for example, even those guys have to go out and they have to do something with it. They can't just walk in and say, I've got this brilliant idea. What do you think? And they're not going to accept it, because there's always got to be proof of concept. If it hasn't been tested in the marketplace, marketing is all about, listen to this, guys, marketing is all about experimentation. It's all about testing, right? It's all about that. It's forever that. Whether you're starting out or whether you're established as a company, wherever you are in your phase of your company or your idea, it's a test. It's an experimentation. And if you haven't tested it enough, no investor is going to come forward with money towards you. And the biggest investment you can make is in yourself. That's when you start testing yourself to go out and see whether you can jump out of your skin, get out of your comfort zone, be able to become great at selling, great at marketing, great at speaking with people. These are skill sets that are going to pay off for a lifetime. Communication skills is part of that. So not having invested in yourself becomes the main reason why people are either assuming things the wrong way or they're ignorant and they're not sure. They don't have the level of knowledge because they're not in the right circles. When someone starts working on themselves, they start forming the right kind of circle of influences around them. And that's what allows them to grow, because the only one way is up when you start investing in yourself, and that's called growth. It doesn't go the other way. It always goes in the trend of upward journey. So you're growing, and as you're growing, you're having to create a network of people that are advancing with you. And so as you're building a network of people around you, it's a different playground altogether. You're graduating and changing a different version of yourself. So obviously now you're more knowledgeable, you're equipped, you're feeling more comfortable, you're more easy with yourself, you're at peace. Now you have more. Your value is more important to you than the perceived value of yourself.
It's quite interesting. Just listening to you, well, viewers thought you were going to talk about where the money is, and now you're saying that investment is not coming from outside. We need to invest in ourselves. That's quite interesting to know that we need to invest in ourselves. Well, we'll take a little break and we'll come back on the Contemplate Show. Don't go away. All right, so we're right back on the topic. Is this the number one secret to getting your business funded? And we've had our guests, take us on a journey, and it's quite interesting to see a lot of work that we have to do to get funded. So Sohan, can you continue on this topic and expatiate on the hidden funding that we're actually looking for that is within our compass?
Absolutely. There are two things that come to mind every time we talk about funding and seeing how it correlates to where actually funding comes into play. What's interesting is a lot of people, when they're starting out with an idea and they want to take it and they have a business and they want to go and find funding for the business, what they don't realize is that they've got to look for that funding internally first, because there are two types of investments you got here. One is the investment in the company, and then there's the investment in yourself. Most people are willing to go and find the investment in the business, and I'll tell you what, that's not hard to find. I mean, you'll find investors. You'll find investors. It's not hard to find investors, but it'll be hard to find an investor who will be willing to invest in your business, because you know why? Your business is a true projection of who you are. And that means your business will only grow as much as you grow. If you don't grow and you stop growing emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, if you stop growing, your business is not going to keep growing. There is no way it's going to work. Okay? So you have to find a way for yourself to grow and keep exceeding that growth in order for your business to catch up with you. That's how it works every single time. Why? Because the strength of a pack is based on the strength of the leader. Your business is like the pack. You driving that ship is the leader. Whether you have already started the business from an idea or whether you're thinking of starting a business from your idea, it's so important that you execute and have that. Now, to have that execution, you got to write this down. You must have a vision. Without vision, people perish. It's the same. We know that. If you cannot see what you want, then you cannot say what you want. And that vision is what allows us to build belief. It's a starting point. That idea you have is a glimpse of the vision that you want to create. But if most people take that idea and it remains as a glimpse because they don't have a vision, they actually have a mission. A mission is more self-based. A vision is more other people-based. And they get stuck with the self-based. Why? Because they haven't done the number one investment, which is the investment in themselves. They haven't invested in themselves. So here's the thing. If you haven't invested in you, how would you expect me to invest in you? If you haven't invested in you, the question is, why haven't you yet invested in you?
So some people, I just got to push back on right there. Some people argue that they've invested in themselves. They spend a lot of time on the idea. Can you just unpack what does investing in you look like?
Investing in you, good question. And it's quite interesting, because people spend a lot of time on an idea. You said something very valuable there. They spend a lot of time contemplating an idea. Okay. But they don't never take action on the idea. The reason they don't do that is because the investing in themselves is done perhaps not in a right way, or is not sufficient enough yet for them to have a realization in our heart to be able to know they need to execute. Why? Because execution is nothing else but action. Action can come. Action is the only form of beating fear. If you want to kill fear, take action. If you want to, now, there's a degree of fear. If you're extremely fearful and you're having heart palpitations and you're highly strung and you're over anxious, of course, action is not going to beat that fear. You got to have a different approach to it. But it comes back to that investing, right? So investing in yourself means you got to be able to find a coach or a mentor, someone that can help you personally to be able to deal with the shadows that you've been hiding from and suppressing, and start expressing. But that is very scary. It's a very scary place to be. But if we don't actually find someone that can help us to deal with the challenges that we're coming across, we're going to have trouble having to be able to take this idea that we have and actually put it into play, let alone have to find it.
So what you're saying now is, because some people might argue, why do I need to take my money and give a coach when I can figure it myself? I can figure it out myself. But you are saying that is part of the investment.
Yeah.
You need to invest in a coach.
That's right.
Someone who can actually guide you. That's a good point.
Absolutely right. You know why? Because, guys, whoever's listening right now, right, or watching this right now, stand up and try and kick yourself in the rear. Try and kick yourself with the heel and see how hard you can actually hurt yourself in your bottom. Chances are you're not going to even get close to it. But now try and get someone else in the house or someone around you, tell them to give you a kick in the rear. Tell me how hard that's going to hurt. But tell them to go as hard as they can. It hurts. It's classic. You cannot hold yourself accountable. You can hold yourself to higher standards, but you cannot hold yourself accountable to those high standards as well as someone else externally can. And usually it'll be someone who has done what you want to do, who has walked the walk where you want to walk, has gone down the path and experienced the mistakes and has been rough around the edges and smoothed themselves out the exact same path that you want to take. And they've been through that journey that you're willing to go on. Those people can help you. Keyword, they will help you and guide you to hold yourself accountable, and they will hold you accountable so that you can now have the ability to take account of every action you take and every action you don't take, which is now known as responsibility, the ability to respond to the actions you have not taken and the actions you have taken. You need that loop of feedback. You need someone to show up. It's the same as if you look at professional athletes, right? They have every single professional athlete playing at a professional level has a coach. They stand on the sideline.
Yeah, I was always, while you were talking, it just came to my mind. I'm like, you're really good. Why do you need a coach? But yeah, go ahead.
Right? And the coach is the one person that can actually help you to get better than good. Because good ain't good enough anymore. You see, we're only as great as our last outcome. And we are constantly having to program ourselves. We're constantly having to upgrade, and it's called revolution. It's called an evolution of who we are. If we're not looking at the programming, we are in trouble. Because up until now, whatever we've managed to achieve has been purely based on all the programming we carry up until this point. But if we want to go to the next level in our life, whether it's personally, professionally, and financially, we're going to have to change the programming. Most of us are willing to upgrade our phones and the versions of the software and the firmwares on our phones or our MacBooks or our laptops or our computers or our tablets or iPads. But we're not willing to look at upgrading the versions of our programming. And if you don't do that, how are you meant to reach the next level that you're trying to achieve? So a simple thing could be going from one level where you didn't have an idea to another level where you found out about an idea. Another level above that would be you started to contemplate that idea. And now the fourth level on top of that would be perhaps to go ahead and test the idea before you can finally execute on it fully. These are different levels of where you want to move. But in order for you to do that, you need to make sure that you're constantly moving up the ranks. Now, you can never be as good as you think you are until you have someone next to you to give you that feedback. Because you need a mirror image. You need someone to reflect back to you what you can't see. Try looking at your eyeballs without a mirror, right? Start there. Like if you want to challenge yourself and say, well, I'm good anyway, why do I need someone else and pay a coach? Well, try looking at the color of your eyeballs without a mirror. The only way you do it is in front of a mirror. You need reflection. A coach is the one who will give you and show you that reflection of who you're being in the moment of despair, in the valley of despair, and also at the state of greatness. They will be there to show you who you're being, because it's only based on who you're being is what you receive. And who you're being is based on what you're programmed to be.
What of those who do not have these funds at the initial stage to have a coach?
Easy.
They don't have a mentor. They don't have a coach. What would you say to people like that?
I remember I didn't have the money to get a coach. I didn't have the money. But what I realized was that was a resource. So I had to realize that, successful people are not successful because they have resources, it's because they are resourceful people. They find a way. What if you don't have the money? Well, I'm going to ask you this. What if you never had the money and don't achieve the goal? Which one's more important to you now? And again, this goes back to most people. They will sit back on their laurels and they'll postpone it and they'll delay it and they'll procrastinate getting a coach under the guise of I don't have enough money, because they're focused on what they want and they're looking at that as a goal instead of focusing on what gets them excited as a result of what they want. Because if they get excited about what they want, I can promise you now, they're going to go with anticipation, which will cause their body to feel empowered, which will create a feeling of function, and their hands will actually start getting creative. And all of a sudden, they will go from, I can't afford it, to, how can I afford it? How can I make this possible? Let's go and find it. There's got to be a way. Start getting creative. And now they stop doing their best and they start performing it whatever it takes. It's not motivation that people need to be able to go and find the money to find a coach. Because money is just energy. It's drive. Drive is something that is everlasting. Motivation is short-lived like a shower. That's why we have to have it every day. But drive is something that comes innate from our soul. It's something that's a spiritual anointment that we've been gifted by God. It's there. But it's connected deeply to what gets us excited in life. The achievement that gets us excited, that's what it's connected to. And so not having that clarity can cause someone to procrastinate them getting a coach or a mentor to get them to where they want to go, a paid coach. And why am I insisting on a paid coach, not a free coach? Well, because when you pay someone, you pay attention. Now, if you pay a little, you pay a little attention. But if you pay a lot, you'll pay a lot of attention to the coach.
That's quite an interesting word. I happen to have the mentors I've had in my life. I've not had to pay them, thankfully, and I've taken them seriously. So are you saying the quality of people also matter?
God has blessed you with the ability to be in the 1%. I promise you.
But I understand what you mean. When things come free, people do not take it seriously. They misuse the proximity to that knowledge, and they just kind of abuse it.
Absolutely. And you know what? Money is it's an energy exchange. When they're exchanging money for someone to hold them accountable and show them the reflection of who they are, That's nothing else but them actually exchanging something up front to be able to say, yeah, I can put some effort in now because I've worked hard for this money. I can see the value of this money that I'm putting forward for an investment in me. So I certainly want to see some returns come through. And therefore, it's so important for them to do that up front. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, I'll own the property without investing anything. It doesn't work like that. You still have to put some money in it. You've got to put a tiny deposit, whether it's $100 or $1 or $1,000 or $100,000. You still need to put down a tiny deposit because that's your one way of showing commitment. When we can commit to our commitment of wanting that idea to turn into a dream come true, yeah. And when we can get resourceful to find that because we want to get committed to a commitment, it changes everything. So being why focused is very important.
Yeah, I think you've kind of equipped the viewers with a lot of components and tools, because you talked about belief, planning, goals. You touched on vision. You also talked about a mentorship, how you can be resourceful. And you also talked about taking baby steps and not being desperate and testing the idea. I think that's really, really. So what I'm hearing from you is that excitement of not being left behind simply, or maybe feeling that you've achieved something, and that emotional connection. Like, one of the reasons why I read for exams is not necessarily because I like to read, to be honest. The main thing is I don't want to get into the exam hall and I see a familiar question. That thing, it throws me off. I'm sitting down and I'm seeing this question. It looks familiar and I don't know it. So what I hold on to is I don't want to be stranded. So because I don't want to be stranded, because I'm trying to connect, the points that you're giving, which is very, very helpful, because a lot of people are dealing with issues of raising funds and they think it's just black and white. It's like a cookie cutter. And you've really, really touched on a few things. So I go into the exam hall knowing that I should cover. Before I get into the exam hall, I already know what I'm going to get. So I spend a lot of time, studying. And you are saying that the same environment as business, you have an idea. Take time, to look at the goals that you have a vision, connect it, make sure it's emotional, and then be resourceful, because that will answer a lot of questions. Because I was like, but I don't have the money. I've made some phone calls and I'm not getting the money and no one is supporting me. And you're saying be resourceful to a point where you can actually afford to pay a coach and whatever thing that you need. Yeah. So I have two questions before we let you go today. This question is, so I've started a little bit, I've tested the idea and I'm beginning to get some traction. What's your advice to people like that? Where do they go from there? They've gotten maybe 1 or 2, 3 customers or clients or whatever. And how can they scale from there?
Very good questions. Yeah, so the first thing they have to do is they got to look at how they can now take this, and they don't have to do anything different. The next step is to do more of what they're already doing. Like, they just literally have to amplify that and expand that and take more massive action. Because if they're starting with 2 or 3 customers now, right? First of all, I would suggest going and testing and getting your first 3 customers as free customers, not paid, because you're just doing it in exchange of wanting to get some results. Now you go and get the next 3 customers where you're charging them a tiny bit, not too much, not what you would normally charge, not what your competition charge, just something small, just something that can show an exchange of energy, right? And that gives you 6 customers, but that's still just 6 customers versus 600 customers or 60 customers, right? So now you want to take this and you go, okay, great. Now I'm going to go, and for the 7th, 8th, and 9th customer, now I'm going to charge them a full price, because now I have confidence, I have authority, I have some results in the back of me, I've got experience around it, I've made some tweaks to it, I've improvised it over the last 6 opportunities, and now I'm going to go and get the 7th, 8th, and 9th customer, and I'm going to charge them a bigger amount. And now all you got to do is you got to take that same action you did for the 7th, 8th, and 9th. You want to grow. You don't want to scale, you want to grow. Because scaling is way down the track. But for someone to go to the next step from here is to be able to grow. How do I grow it? Do the same thing again. Look back and reevaluate. Am I still excited? Is my goal the same? Have I achieved that goal yet? No. Okay. Is it still the same one that I'm excited about? Yep. Okay, good. Well, have I got a plan? because my plan now has to be bigger. And the plan is to be able to execute and repeat, rinse and repeat. In sport, we say run it back, run the play back, run that play back. If that play worked for you, just run it back. Don't change anything, run it back. Now think about it. The 9 times you did it and you got your 9 customers, it worked. So why do you need to reinvent the wheel? Now you just need more customers. You want to grow, right? So now you want to go all out and you want to go to market, but you want to grow through the market. So how do you grow through the market while everyone else is trying to go to the market? Well, you just run it back. You run the same thing you did 9 times. First 3 were free. The second lot were, charged some small amount. And then the 7th, 8th, and 9th were charged the actual amount. Now you can go out and you can do more of that, of what you did for the 7th, 8th, and 9th, charging the same. And now you look at getting more of those customers. You just have to have a bigger plan of attack without changing the fundamental framework that you had in the first place to get your initial 9 people in this example, right? And then once you're starting to do that, you're obviously now building your opportunities, because remember this, in addition to you running back everything you've done for the first 9 times in this example that I just shared, you're also going to be reading more books. You're also going to be looking at your circle of influence, your family and your friends. You're going to start meeting new people. You're going to network, right? You're going to start looking, you'll be meeting new connections. Don't forget the 9 people that you've got in your initial, you're going to reach out to them. And if you remember back in this beginning of the episode, I said, you can ask them, by the way, Mr. X, you wouldn't happen to know just one person like you who's struggling with X, Y, and Z problem, would you? And now you're going to get some more resources and contacts from those people, because they might not give you a direct prospect, but they might connect you with someone who you can network with that might have a connection to a lot of those prospects that you're looking for. So I would just run it back and grow and create massive action, because from massive action, comes massive momentum, massive results. And from massive results comes massive momentum. And when you have massive momentum, you have absolute massive certainty. And I said this before, that certainty equals to belief. That belief system is what allows you to really go out there and show up with a different posture, which now when you stand in front of someone down the track where you've perhaps crossed, say, close to $3 million in turnover, you can now turn around and go to someone like, as an example, we've got the infamous Alex Hormozi. You can go up to Alex Hormozi and you can say, yep, now my business is turning over 3 million. I would love to take this and scale it to 5 or $10 million. Please, I'd love to partner up with you, and I need your expertise now to help us to take this to the next level. They will come forward now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fantastic. I have one more question for you.
Please do.
What role does processes and systems play in terms of generating funds for entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. Well, the processes and systems play a massive role up until the point where you reach about $3 million before you can start seeking funding. Right? They play a vital role, but they will not be the main role, because even up until $3 million, the guys that are coming in to invest are not so interested in your systemized approach. They're more interested to see your database, to see your customer base, and to look at the average value of your customers, which are based on pre-sale, sale, and post-sale, which is customer retention, customer relationship management, all that. So they're looking at basically your process or systems from a sales perspective, a marketing perspective. That's what they're looking at. So if you need to, going back to what we were saying before, the twin tickets of success, sales and marketing, if there are any systems that you need to have, it's in the sales and marketing place. That's where you need to have your processes and systems tight. The rest of the operational and admin part, that will follow after you look for a venture capitalist or an investor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's quite good. So yeah, it's been really mind-blowing. I myself, I'm just listening and I'm just imagining what the viewers will say, where we came from. When I think we got a lot from this episode 5. We had Sohan really kind of broke down the process that we need to be able to get these funds as business owners. So what we usually do at the end of the show like this, we would like you to recommend books that our viewers can read, and also how they can contact you via social media, and how they can reach out to you?
The first book I would suggest that everyone should read is The 7 Ultimate Secrets to Real Love Success. The 7 Ultimate Secrets to Real Love Success was written specifically for women, but even when men read it, they found out, oh my God, that book is so powerful. So it's a short book. It's worth reading. The author has literally written that book when she was crawling, when she was crying, and when she was dying in the ICU. She's a world's first miracle survivor. Brilliant book on self-love. It's a topic about understanding different activities. It's a book full of activities that people can actually apply to experience and build up the love for themselves first. Putting themselves first before they put anyone else in not a selfish way, but an intelligently self-interested way, to be able to serve better and create a ripple effect in their lives with the people they love and fight. Massive, massive book. Incidentally, that book is written by my partner, and I know that book has changed lives, changed my life, certainly changed people that have read that book. It's worth reading that book. Every single human being on the planet should read it. Certainly all the females listening to this conversation right now, pick that book up. It'll change your life. 7 Ultimate Secrets to Real Love Success. The second book is Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill. I mean, that book is a classic. If you look at any top successful entrepreneur in the planet, including us right now on this conversation, we have read that book multiple times. Think and Grow Rich is a book that is designed for that purpose. If you don't think it, you are not going to achieve it. You need to know what you think about. You need to look at your thoughts, and you need to look at how you're going to apply your thoughts into the way you play your role. That's why I always say to people, I simplified that and I said, what you see is based on what you say. So be careful of what you say, because that's exactly what you'll see. And then the third book I like a lot is a book called Dumbing Us Down. And for the life of me, the author's name always slips my mind. But that book is a book written on how we as human beings were trained by what is called the educational system, but actually is a miseducational system. Some call it child prisons, where we were trained as human beings to get dumbed down to the point that we had to follow orders and become followers. And that's why today in the world, we have 98% of the population that are followers, not leaders. When in reality, you were born to be great. You were born a leader. You just were not shown that. And you were dumbed down to just follow instructions. And that's what's created this world of where we are today. So Dumbing Us Down is the book of truth. It's not fiction. It's not someone's opinion. They're factual information. It's just truth. It's a book full of truth of how the miseducational system was invented, how it never changed, and how that is still continuing to dumb people down. And when you read that book, it's such an easy read, but the moment you read the first 5 pages, your jaw will drop. That's how powerful that book is. I certainly look at that.
Thank you so much. And lastly, how can people reach you?
Easy. I mean, most of my clients are on Facebook, so I live on Facebook as well. So people can go straight to Facebook and look me up. Sohan Gokarn. That's SOHANGOKARN. You can find me on Facebook, or you can also find me on Instagram. It's The Real Sohan Gokarn, or you can find me on Twitter by my name, or you can go to our website. You can check us out in terms of what we do. It's VideoIt online. So it's VIDEOIT.online. Video it. So it was an idea that came up from, you get an idea? Well, why don't you go and video it? Oh, you want to talk about this? Why don't you go and video it? So the video it has become one of the most profound conversations in our platforms, where people go in and they create videos. So if you want to find out more about us, just hop on there. Go to videoit.online and you'll check it out.
We've come to the end of the Contemplate Show, episode 5. By now, I believe you've been able to get tools and nuggets on how to generate funds for your business. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any topic you would like us to treat, please drop in the comments section. Thank you, Sohan, for gracing this episode, and we would love to have you come back again in one of our episodes. And that's it from me. I am Enoch Ogi, and bye for now.